What is a Bible story that you read that made you realize God is not to be played with? I saw this question in one of the groups I'm a part of, and I just had to chime in, share the hilarious answers people gave, and also I want to hear yours. So let's answer this question. Stay tuned, hear me out. It's just a thought. Okay, so before we get right into it, I want to say hello to the most recent subscribers. I see you. Our little family is growing. I'm happy you are here, and hopefully, you found a place where you want to stay. If you have yet to subscribe, click the subscribe button and let's make it official. On this channel, we talk about everything wisdom. So, I read the answers to this question. Again, I'm a part of a lot of groups of people who just love God and love looking for wisdom in every single page of the Bible. And so somebody asked, I will read the question again. What is a Bible story that you read that made you realize God is not to be played with? And so, of course, like I said, I want to hear yours, your story, but I will share a couple of answers from the group that cracked me up. I read these answers. Lot's wife looking back was it for me. And if you remember, she looked back, instantly became a statue of salt. That was not a good ending for her. She should have listened. Somebody just wrote Job. I agree. I think my answer will match their answer. Somebody else wrote, when Jesus was turning over tables at the synagogue. That's what I'm talking about. If you remember, Jesus arrives. They're kind of using the place to sell stuff. He gets mad. He starts flipping over some tables. And that was a very bold move. And yeah, that also made me realize to not play with that. Somebody wrote, the guy that tripped and touched the ark and then dropped dead. I was like, excuse me? He tripped because the Lord knows I'm tripping all the time, literally. Got me out here fearing him 100%. That's funny. Now, of course, we can talk about, God's grace and God's mercy and the fact that everything has been laid out and paid on the cross, but we're here to have fun today. So that's that. Somebody wrote Genesis through Revelation, basically the whole Bible, first page to last page. That's true. That's a fact right there. Pardon me. Somebody else wrote the story of Jonah after being swallowed by a fish. Then when he was in the desert, he created a tree in just a day and kills it. Yep. Okay, it's not a biblical answer. So somebody said, for me, it's really not a Bible verse story, but it's what happened in California a few weeks back. Wow, God is not to be played with. Now, this is pretty much open to interpretation. Some folks see what has happened in California, the fires, as a sign or as a manifestation. I don't necessarily agree, but to each his own. I think we're going to just focus on biblical stories. But if you have opinions about what happened in California, please do share. Somebody else wrote the flood, Sodom and Gomorrah, Adam and Eve, just to name a few. So as you can see, as folks read the Bible, we all have a story or multiple stories that make us even see that make us see the strength of God, the magnificence of God even more. And I encourage you, if you have never opened a Bible, to start today. That's when and that's where you find God's word. That's how you get to know the God of Christianity. And that's where you can maybe come up with questions that will help you discover the faith. So I do encourage you to, of course, study the Bible, but also have fun with it. So some things are truly funny in the Bible. I will go on a small tangent, but I mentioned that my husband, and when he prays for a very long time. Pardon me if my voice sounds funny. I'm still sick. So yeah, when he prays, he takes a while. He says everything. He prays for everyone, which is admirable. But I often joke with him saying, you know, the guy that fell asleep due to the long nature of the discourse that Paul was giving, he died. He fell asleep because it was so long. He fell from the window from like a 3-story building and he died. You can't be praying for hours at night when I'm trying to sleep. And so of course it's a joke, but I do like to have fun sometimes with the Bible stories to show that the Bible is full of God, but it is also full of humanity. It is also full of us. And my answer to this question is also found in Job. So when God answered Job, so first let's recap actually the story. Like I said, if you've never opened the Bible, if you just stumbled upon this channel, the story of Job is found in the book of Job. And so he is a righteous man. He loses everything, and his friends try to sort of explain why or challenge him. And at some point, Job starts questioning God. And so you read the story, and then you get to chapter 38. Now, Job has been through it. He lost his family, his wealth, his health too. And his friends, if you ask me, are basically useless, giving him bad advice. And Job at some point is like, hey, God, what's going on here? What's happening, you know? And I think it's a fair question. We've all at some point gone through a difficult time or not understood what was happening and thought, this is so unfair. What are you doing, God? Like, what's happening right now? And again, I'm sure you have. If you haven't, I want to be you when I grow up. But the good news is then God answers. So in chapter 38, God steps in. And he is not here to soothe Job's feelings. And this is to me, the biblical equivalent to know your place. And so to me, let's actually, before I even comment on it, look at the response. And so in Job 38, God says, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurement? Surely you know. If you haven't followed that, or I guess, again, if you're a new Christian, you have not gotten to that story yet, God made the world. God stretched the heavens and the earth and made everything. And this was before any of us was there, you, me, Job. And so he's basically answering to Job saying, you know nothing. You weren't there when I was doing the most wonderful things ever. You weren't there when I was creating the world you live in. Your little story, you questioning me. Do you have the wisdom? Do you know? Do you have understanding? Surely, just answer me. Tell me where you were when everything in this universe was created by me. And so, I think honestly, it showed me. I am Job. Job is me. Job is you. We definitely need that reality check sometimes, and to be reminded how great God is. Not just necessarily great as in good, but great as in big, great as in powerful, great as in eternal and all-knowing, all doing. I don't know if that's a word, but I will stick with that word. So then God goes on for, I think it's 4 chapters, guys, listing all of the things Job, and I mean you and I, has no clue about. And I think by the end, you're just like, yep, Job probably is curled up in a fetal position somewhere. Either he's sitting down just admiring the goodness and greatness of God, or he's curled up in the fetal position because he's just gotten read by God for 4 chapters straight. And I won't lie, I read this sometimes and I'm like, yep, I hope to be spoken to like this when I am questioning things, to be reminded all the time through the word of God of just how magnificent our Father is. But would I survive that conversation? I don't know. Sometimes the Bible slaps you, like I always say. Excuse me. And so it's all fun and games, of course. I loved reading the answers that other people gave, and I invite you to please share your oh wow moment when you were reading the Bible. But I also want to talk about why this matters to us. I do think it's easy to forget how big God is and how small we are. And I think Job 38 is one of those reality checks, those moments that just remind us who is actually running the show. And I've seen and read multiple opinions and warnings about how sometimes in 2020, I was going to say 2024, we're in 2025. Sometimes currently what we look at and use God for and Christianity for is like for it to be at our service. We kind of place ourselves in the middle of things, and God is supposed to be like our cheerleader, our hype man, our yes man. I can do all things through God, through Christ who strengthens me. He knows the plan that he has formed for. It's just sometimes we have a tendency to think of the universe as just about us, and it's good to be reminded of who actually is running the show. He's the star. We are his servants. We are his creatures. We are his loved ones. And he was there doing pretty much wonders before we were even born. And so it's important to be reminded through stories of real people like Job who questioned him, just how big and powerful he is. And it's not even about, pardon me, God being cruel. It's about showing Job and us that there's actually a bigger picture that we won't fully understand, because we, in our human condition, with our human reality, we have a limited mind. We have a limited reality. He doesn't have limitations. He is the God of the universe. He created it. And we all have humbling moments where we just had to trust God despite not understanding exactly what he was doing. I think in my testimony, I talked about moments where I was going to God and kind of going him for a specific situation and trying to kind of tell him what to do. I was trying to help God help me. And then he chose to tell me, hey, you're my daughter. Like, focus on you and me. And that really humbled me, but also filled me with joy, because it was the moment where I realized I might be worried about multiple things and going to God with those things. But what he wants is me first. He'll work out the rest later. He has worked out the rest later. So I want to encourage you, if you are a seasoned Christian and sometimes you're like, I've lived a good life, I've given my all, I have been nice to people, I have worked hard, why is stuff happening to me? Why is my health declining? Why are my relationships the way that they are? Why am I so sad or lonely or depressive? And you bring those things up to God, to remember that there's a bigger picture than you. God sees you. God knows your pain, feels your pain, but also is bigger than that. And so to get into his word, to look at his promises, to look at stories like these where people lost everything, despite being good people, and look at how these stories end. And it'll inspire you, it'll encourage you. And if you are a new Christian or a skeptic or even an atheist just listening randomly to this podcast, again, welcome. First of all, hit subscribe so I can annoy you on the regular, but also I invite you to test out this faith and to read about this religion called Christianity, not necessarily for the religion, but for the God behind it. I've tested it. What is the phrase? Tried, tested, and true. So I just want to encourage everybody and for us to pause when we face tough situations and remember Job 38. God is not to be played with. God is in control. So, yeah, next time you're tempted to question what God is doing, just crack open Job and remember that you don't want that smoke. And remember that God has got it. So if this made you think, share it with a friend, answer with your own answer in the comment section. Share this to somebody who needs a reminder of God's greatness. And I will see you